This is one of my two 66 Mustangs. This one wasn't bought as a long term. I could have bought that to speculate, but I just haven't got into selling it yet because I'm not actually that good at selling cars. I tend to fall in love with them. This one, what's special about this? This is it's a K code Mustang. The K refers to the engine specification. Mustangs of 65 and 66 came in three engines, or four. There was the 6-cylinder, and then there was the three specs of 289 Windsor V8, and the K code is the top spec. It's the one that Shelby took for his 1,000 Shelby Mustangs, and he built his own special car around that. And there is a K code register in the States, and this is one of 235 that are known to have survived. And what attracted me to this particular car, when I saw it on eBay USA, which I browse from time to time when I'm not on Gumtree and Trade Me New Zealand and eBay Australia and all the other ones, is it was a good price, 24,500 US at the time, which is 33 Australian. So I landed it here for 40, or just over. But it's the fact that it's never been mucked around. This is as it came out of the factory. Quite a crazy spec really. The American cars, you ticked all the options box, and sometimes if you ticked them all, you could get a car that was double the base price. And with the options on the 66, there was the motor, and this got the tick for the K code, because there were only about 5,000 K codes made in 66 for the whole of the world, which is basically America then. Shelby took 2,000 of them for his Shelby GT350s, and we'll talk about that when we look at mine. But the other 3,000 just was all there was, and of the sedans, there were only about 500 sedans. The person that optioned this from new, I'd like to know where his head was at, because he got the most powerful motor that you can get in a Mustang, which was 275 horsepower, which was quite big back in those days. This is the days before big blocks. They came out a year or two later. But he optioned it with drum brakes all round, no power steering, no power brakes to his drum brakes. He's got the imitation wire wheels, which personally I don't like, but I love them because they were a $57 option that was ticked on the original sheet that I've got, and there they are. It's got the twin red band cross plies. Thankfully probably not the 66 ones. BF Goodrich make a Silvertown version, which are about $500 a wheel, but it's got cross ply tyres on it. It's got its AM FM radio, which still works. It's got its one single driver's mirror over there, and it's still got the original seat belts. So it had a light restoration, I believe, in 1990, but they didn't change anything. So that's what appealed. It's what I call a sleeper. You pull up beside that and it looks like an ordinary old white Mustang. Could be a two-door Falcon. But under the hood it's got that rear motor that goes like a rocket. And Ben and Keith have restored that motor. When we got it back last December, which was a saga because they dropped it off the truck in California, and they did $10,000 worth of damage to the front and rear as it bounced onto the road and then hit its bum on the way off the tray. So that all had to get repaired over there with the hauler's insurance, and me kind of trying to negotiate, and the insurer trying to get the cheapest Korean parts he could, and my advocate saying this is a blue chip investment, it's got to have genuine American parts and everything done properly. So I think I'm happy by and large with the job that they did. Could have been a lot worse. But when we got it back here, I took it for a drive around the block, and it was overheating and pumping out water, and I started doing what I could as a bush mechanic, of changing the thermostat and flushing out the radiator and putting a new pressure cap on and checking everything, and no obvious water leaks. And then I handed it to my team and they sorted it.
With love and care.
With love and care. So if you look in that motor, that's a beautifully detailed K code. I'm not sure who did the painting, you or Dad? But the combo. But I source the parts, and the guys rebuild what I need, because there's you can get everything off the internet now, and all the cars that I've got a good support network within Australia, but it's easy as to to import stuff from the States.
Still standard. The original cam was a comp cam, which Mustang obviously put in brand new. We got the original specs and put another cam in it, so it's original spec motor. There's nothing, it's not bored out, it's nothing silly, it's back to original.
And we've also put a new radiator just to guarantee it stays cool. I bought new springs front and rear, new shockies front and rear, because it was just a bit wallowy.
And we paint them, any of this stuff, we find out what the original paint codes are and we paint them to original. So,
And originally,
yeah, just hook loose, that's all. Now you're right.
it's got this thing going.
Gonna start this one up, Pete. So we started yesterday, so we'll just take it out of there. This car's got an interesting history. I'll try and speak up. This is the last of the 4 that came in from New Zealand, because this is a keeper for life. It's a, I think it's my wife still talking.
Yeah.
It's a replica, an exact replica of the Shelby GT350H, which has a fascinating history. Carroll Shelby was American's Peter Brock. When the 66, 65 and 66 Mustangs came out, they were originally designed for women with six-cylinder motors. They were on the Falcon platform with a nicer body, but Ford wanted them to go faster and be picked up by people that wanted a car that handled, and he gave that job to Carroll Shelby in exactly the same way as Holden did to form HDT and Peter Brock. And this Shelby's version of the GT350 was to take a standard 66, 65 and 66 fastback with the K-code motor. They were delivered from the factory just with the standard interior, none of the deluxe options or anything. No power brakes, no power steering, just the brutal motor in the body. And then he debadged them of all Ford identity. You won't see Ford on it anywhere. And he put Shelby identification plates, and there's a genuine Shelby plate on this. I could pass it off as an original, but I don't. It's got a genuine Shelby plate on it of a wrecked car. And then he put 38 go faster bits on it to make them handle. Again, just like Peter Brock did. This has got 37. I bought it almost done, and I finished off about the last 12 things that needed to be doing. He increased the horsepower by putting a high-rise Holly 650 carb and high-rise manifold, changed the camshaft, changed the exhaust system. He put a quick steering rack in it. He altered the caster and camber, and now from the front you'll see it's got a neat little 2 degrees of negative camber that really makes it go around corners. Tramp rods on the back. It's got the genuine racing belts. They're called Dan Brown belts. They're just lap belts, and they clip together with a racing clip. Wood steering wheel, tacho on the dash, little badge that says you have to pump these brakes to make them go, because they had competition linings in them and they took a while to warm up, and no power assistance, so you really stomp on your brakes. Big heavy clutch, you need a great thick left thigh. Fortunately Carol's got 2 of them, I've got one, but she loves to drive this car too, and she does it very well. I think I'm going to get daggers any minute. It's just a lovely car to drive. It's just really nice. It's a real driver's car. It's totally different to the Corvette, which I'll explain when you do it. Now the colouring, the H bit, is a great bit of history. Carroll Shelby was a bit of an entrepreneur, and he wanted to sell. He only sold 1,000 cars in '65, and he was building up his business. And so either him or his offsider had the idea of approaching Hertz, who had a sports car club rental as part that they rented from airports to members over 25 that had a clean accident record. They could rent a sports car, and Shelby painted up one in the Hertz corporate colours, which is black and gold, and took it along and said, "Would you like to buy one?" And they so loved it, they said, "We'll order 1,000." So there were 1,000 of these made. The first 200 were manuals, and after that they quickly changed them to auto, because what happened, these were a race car made for the road, and a lot of them never got returned, or they got returned with evidence of roll cages having been put into them over the weekend, or the motor taken out to put into a race car and then back into here, and they were basically just kind of wrecked and stolen and not returned. And in an effort to kind of slow it down, they made them all autos for the last 800, and then they never did it again. But now they've become very collectible, and for a genuine one, you will pay now, they've gone over $200,000 US. So that's that. Probably nothing more I could say about that. Any questions? So I haven't asked you questions yet.